We lost our only audience.
Özgür, the floor is yours.
Okay, I was waiting for people to join. Maybe we could wait for another 2-3 minutes.
Okay.
Welcome, everyone. We are waiting a little bit to give a chance to join to other guests. We will start in like 2 or 3 minutes. Thank you for your patience. I think we should start right now, if people can join anyways. So good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, AI at Every Touch Point, a look at how intelligent banks enhance their customer journey. My name is Özgür, and I will be your host for the webinar today. Thank you all for joining us. We are very pleased to have you here for a discussion on how artificial intelligence is transforming the customer journey in financial services, from their first digital interaction to long-term engagement and customer value. Today's session will last around 40 minutes. We will have approximately 30 minutes of discussion, followed by a 10 minutes of Q&A session. Today I have with me William Ferrand from InvestSuite and Rehan Mohammed from Enqura. I would like to thank both of them in front of all of you for making this webinar possible and for joining us today. Before we begin our discussion, I would like to invite our speakers to briefly introduce themselves and their companies. Just a quick note for our audience, please feel free to submit your questions in the Q&A section at any time during the webinar. We will go through them during the Q&A session at the end. So, William, you are our guest, and I would like to start with you. Please introduce yourself and your company, InvestSuite.
Sure, and thank you so much for hosting me today and allowing me to speak on your webinar. So I'm William Ferrand. I'm the Chief Revenue Officer of InvestSuite based in the UK. I joined InvestSuite towards the end of last year after 12 years at London Stock Exchange Group, Refinitiv, Thomson Reuters through its different iterations, where I worked in sales and strategy, product, and finally sales leadership, but always focused within wealth management. And I came to InvestSuite because I see it as a sort of pioneer in terms of where the world is going. And with AI, it has really, my decisions have really been a good one and proven. So who are InvestSuite? We're a B2B white labeled investment solutions provider for banks and wealth managers. So really providing investment platforms to banks to serve a retail audience. And I think this webinar is a really pertinent one for us because AI is in our DNA. One of our co-founders is one of the leading voices in AI in Belgium, where we're headquartered. And I'll sort of talk about this in more depth later, but we've moved from a AI assisted journey to a truly agentic space now, where we have agents that we can plug into our own investment platforms, of course, and already integrated, but actually that we can plug into third-party investment platforms to give them a bit of a lift. But I don't want to give too much away now, so I'll pass over to Rehan to introduce himself.
Thank you for the introduction, William. Rehan, the floor is yours now. Please go on.
Thank you, William. Thank you, Özgür, and thank you everybody who's joined us today. Let me briefly introduce you to myself. My name is Rehan Mohammed. I'm the country manager for Enqura for Middle East and North Africa region. I call myself banker by accident and fintech by choice because I've spent quite a bit of my I would say previous life in the banking circuit, but a lot to take forward. So it's exciting to work on the other side where we could provide banks solutions to go to the next level. Before we begin, I'd like to also briefly introduce my company, Enqura. At Enqura, we simply help banks, fintechs, insurtech companies, digital finance institutions accelerate their digital transformation journey. In short, we make it easier for them to get from here to here. What makes us different is that we don't look at digital onboarding, security, and digital channels as separate products. We see them as one connected client journey within our community. Today at Enqura, we serve financial institutions in multiple markets, completely AI-backed driven solutions with digital identification, verification, mobile and web channels, strong authentication on security, digital wallets, and open banking AI-powered assistance. Our focus at Enqura is very simple. We help financial institutions deliver secure, compliant, frictionless customer experiences. At the same time, we aim at reducing operational complexity and ideally accelerate growth for the bank or the fintech.
So thank you, Rehan. Now that our speakers have both introduced themselves, let me briefly set the context for today's discussion. AI is no longer just a technology trend for financial institutions. It is becoming a strategic tool for improving how financial institutions acquire, onboard, engage, support, and retain their customers. But one of the key questions is how AI should be applied. Should it be used only to improve individual touch points, or should financial institutions think about the customer journey as one connected experience? That is exactly what we will explore today. So I'm moving on to our discussion questions. Rehan, I would like to start with you. AI is becoming a strategic priority for financial institutions, as you know. So why do you believe customer journeys should be viewed as a connected experience rather than a collection of separate processes?
Thanks for the prompt question, Özgür. I think that's a very basic question to start off with. And the answer to that question is why shouldn't the customers expect the journey to be a continuous journey? See, I think the biggest shift today we're seeing is not actually technology. It's actually customer expectations. As time has progressed, the expectations have actually gone up, and so is technology. Today, customers compare their banking experience not just to other banks, but with the best digital experiences they have every day. So if it's paying with a bank card, they're automatically thinking about the experience with Apple Pay and Google Pay or a Samsung Pay. Whether it's ordering food, booking travel, or using e-commerce platforms, customers are actually thinking about the banking experiences to be as good as these platforms: quick, simple, secure, fast, and most importantly, personalized. So the challenges that many financial institutions face today is they still operate separate processes and separate systems. So we have one team managing onboarding, we have another team managing authentication, there's a third team that's handling payments, and there's a fourth team that's handling customer experience. It sounds complicated. Yes, it has been made complicated. But the fun part is customers don't see any of that. For them, it is just one relationship with a bank, with a fintech, and they expect it to be one seamless flow. A customer may discover your online bank. They start onboarding through a mobile app. They verify the identity through a mobile, make transactions, contact support, apply another product a few minutes later. All this could be done on a web portal or a mobile portal, Android, iOS, you name it. But in the client's mind or the customer's mind, I think it's one continuous journey. But unfortunately, when the technology behind the scenes is disconnected, you are bound to lead to friction. And the friction is immediate. It's not like it's going to happen tomorrow or day after. The moment a customer finds a disconnect between technologies, the friction is immediate. How does this friction happen? Let me give you a few day-to-day examples where we have also gone through the same. They are asked to provide the same information multiple times. They're redirected between different channels. They have to restart the entire process if they've missed out somewhere, something in the middle. And they receive generic communications and messages which does not reflect to anything that is related to the account. And everything creates frustration for the customer itself, because not only is he losing time, he's also confused. So in financial services, like I say, friction can be expensive, and this directly impacts customer engagement and trust. Now this is where the superhero comes in, what we call the AI comes in to make it a more automated tool. The real value of AI is not optimizing individual touch points. The real value is connecting the entire journey as a whole at a more macro level. So if we have AI, the questions that I've asked should be answered. AI should understand whether the customer is new or existing. The AI should understand where the customer left off and start right from there without having to waste time. AI should understand the product the client is interested in, and it should also understand the next best, shortest course of action. When AI is applied across the entire journey, experiences become more personalized, because the banks, the institutions begin to start understanding the customer better from their previous experiences, from their present requirements. So when experiences become seamless, customers don't seem to be frustrated. And most importantly, not only these experiences should be seamless, I think they have to, I don't think they have to be secure, because today what people think is the lesser the technology, the more the insecurity. So it cannot be that way. And at Enqura, this is exactly what we do, how we handle digital transformation. We're talking about the digital onboarding process, the eKYC authentication, the digital banking channels, the AI-powered assistance, which is our 5 pillars. We concentrate and focus in such a way that each one is connected to the previous ecosystem, which means it's a dominoes effect and it's a continuous journey from each solution. Of course, the client can pick and choose one of these bouquet systems, but if a complete journey is required, at Enqura, we have that solution that goes through the entire process. Because what we ultimately believe, I think, is customers don't remember your onboarding process or your security process or your customer service process. All they remember is how easy or how difficult it was to do business with you. And I believe the institution today that succeeds is the one with AI, and the one with AI is the one that makes and connects experiences, not to just make it simpler, simplified, but I think it also has to be made a completely automated process. So today, a lot of people talk about AI, they do have AI, they implement AI, but the most important is the AI working for you rather than you working for the AI. And the institution that would go to the next level today, I believe, is the one who has mastered how AI should be working for them. You're on mute. You're on mute, Özgür.
I'm really sorry about that. Thank you, Rehan. I think that you have made some very important points, especially because customers do not experience a bank through separate internal departments or isolated processes. From their perspective, it is one continuous relationship with the institution, of course. So, William, I would like to bring you into the discussion now and look at this from the engagement and long-term value perspective. My question for you is, as a financial institution increasingly invest in AI, where do you see the biggest opportunities to improve customer engagement and long-term customer value?
Thanks, and it's a great question. I think, as someone that's working within the sales function, I'm having a lot of these conversations with banks on a day-to-day basis. And as you can expect, there's a huge enthusiasm for AI, but people have learned from other trends, and so they want a bit more certainty about returns and how it's going to work with their systems. And of course, within banking, we're in a hugely regulated environment as well, so they need to make sure that everything is protected from that end. So if we look at where we come from at InvestSuite, our strength is front end and user experience, and so it's that customer engagement piece, it's guiding new investors, and that really is everything that we do before AI, and AI has sort of supercharged this as well. So if we start with the end customer, I think the ease of switching means that customers have actually quite fickle now, and they'll happily switch to a different provider for low cost, better experience, across the board. And I think, Rehan, you touched on it brilliantly when you talked about the sort of siloed journeys that you can get. And so an example in my personal life is in the UK, Revolut are offering 4% daily paid interest on savings accounts. And so this was way better than anything, any of the other banks provided. So I just switched my savings into their account quickly. But, they're currently sort of buying customers. It's not something that's sustainable. So they then need to build that experience to keep me engaged, keep me within their ecosystem. And you can see it in other areas. If you look at Amazon, they built something great to start with that was cheap, but actually they're not always the cheapest anymore, but people default to them because that experience is easy and seamless and goes across the value chain. So if we think of the wealth transfer, I don't think I need to talk about it too much. The 100 trillion that's moving from baby boomers. The next generation, I think, Rehan, yet again, you touched on this brilliantly, where you talked about the fact that the next generation are comparing not to other banks, but to their digital experiences across the board. I think the 4 words you used were quick, secure, fast, and personalized. I love that. Because that is really what we need. And at the same time, we have a financial literacy issue. 79% of people have never created a budget. 71% of people cannot describe what a savings account is. And so in a sort of traditional advisor-led wealth experience, people can get confused by terminology. It can feel a bit like a school teacher telling you off because you haven't been putting enough money in your pension or your savings, and you may not always understand. And so people, I think, have been turning to social media. 31% of young people are getting their advice from social media. Or another angle that doesn't necessarily work is they'll just sort of bury their head in the sand and say, okay, well, just push that for another day and I won't look at it. And you want to get the people engaged. And I think AI changes that dynamic. People can query AI, they can ask it anything. without sort of feeling the embarrassment and judgment of, oh, should I be asking what an ETF is? Is this something I should know what it is, for example? And they can ask without feeling like they're having human judgment. They can get a highly personalized experience because the AI, and yet again, as Rehan touched on, can know them and know what personalized offers to give them. But all this without feeling like they're being sold to. They can grow within their investment sort of journey. And then it frees up the advisors to actually do what they do best, which is bring genuine expertise and add a huge amount of value when they're speaking to their customers, rather than just sort of explaining, oh, well, the performance was X. And so I think just to sort of conclude this bit, yeah, that front end experience, helping the customers, and it's also going to help the banks and wealth managers serve their customers better, reduce costs, meet their customers where they want to be met, and grow those relationships and grow the number of investors within the market, which is good for them, good for the market, and good for the economy.
Thank you for your true answer, William. That gives us a very strong perspective on how AI can have financial institutions move beyond customer acquisition and focus more on engagement, retention, and long-term value. Now, I would like to make the discussion more practical and focus on one of the first and most critical steps in the banking journey, and which is onboarding. Now, back to you, Rehan. My next question is for you. How is Enqura using AI to help financial institutions create faster, safer, and more seamless onboarding experiences?
Thanks for that, Özgür. On a more practical level, Özgür, I've always believed you don't get the second opportunity to make the first impression. And especially in a place like banking or fintech, where everybody is in a rush to get somewhere, especially when you get in, let's say, for example, even today, when you get into a hotel, the first thing that hits you is the lobby of the hotel, how good it is done. And maybe the hotel is pretty average, but you can see a lot of investment going in the lobby, in the reception. Why is that? The only reason it is done that way is because that's the first impression you're going to create. Exactly. Cut to, this is what happens in banking or any other fintech. The best impression you create is in the onboarding journey that has been created to welcome the client. And this is actually one of the most exciting areas for us because onboarding is where customer experience, security, compliance, business growth, experiences, they all come together. Traditionally, financial institutions face a very difficult challenge, and I feel them and I agree them. So what they feel is if you increase the security and compliance checks, the onboarding process becomes a longer and a more boring and a more complex process. And if you simplified the process too much, you increased fraud and compliance risks. So institutions were constantly balancing between security and customer experience. And at Enqura, we believe that AI allows institutions to achieve both. So it's like you cut the cake and you have your cake exactly the same way. So one of the key innovations we've invested in the AI running our technology is the mobile edge technology. Okay, now what does that mean? It's pretty simple. What it means is intelligence happens directly at the customer's device or mobile's level, rather than relying on different other central servers or external servers. Now, why is that important? One of the biggest reasons it's important is mobile is the most used device in today's world by anybody, but also because speed matters. When a customer decides to open an account, every second counts. He's not going to walk into a branch. He's not going to go to his desktop. He's just going to use our AI-driven mobile edge technology for identity verification, facial matching, liveliness detection, and of course, document verification. And trust me, all this happens not in minutes, but in a few seconds. So the customer doesn't feel the waiting of the process. He doesn't feel that he's playing a game on a PS or a Nintendo where he has to go from one castle to another. It does not feel that way. The feeling is, I do a liveliness check, My document is pushed in, it's verified, voila, I'm onto the customer's platform. The experience actually feels natural and it feels immediate. But at the same time, AI is working continuously in the background to protect the institution. What the client has seen is a simple journey, but at the background, AI is working out much more harder. It's checking fraud indicators. It's checking AML. It's checking suspicious behavior. It's checking anti-spoofing. It's checking deep fakes, document manipulation, a lot of stuff. So the customer is not aware of this stuff, but that's the beauty, right? There's so much happening in the background, and all the customer sees is a face liveliness check, and he's into the system. And what's important in all these security controls is that they do not interrupt the customer journey. The customer journey is smooth, no traffic jams. He's headed out on a highway, no barriers, no red stops, but there is a lot of checks happening in the background. The customer experience is smooth onboarding, while the bank or the institution feels stronger, much more protected through AI. Another area where I think AI creates some amazing value is compliance. Every financial institution today operates under strict EKYC, EKYB, and regulatory requirements. If you go back in time, historically, compliance has been viewed as a necessary obstacle. It was not more of a help, but it was an obstacle in an onboarding process. Today, we look at it completely differently, and I'm glad we look at it completely differently. By embedding AI-driven verification solutions, we automate document validation, we automate facial recognition, we automate liveliness detection, and the decision directly into the onboarding flow compliance becomes a part of the experience. So we're taking compliance, we're taking the liveliness checks, the document detection, and putting it into one single journey where the customer doesn't feel any disruptions. And perhaps I think the biggest business benefit is reducing runaways. When I say runaways, a lot of the clients today, as per data, more than 60% have left a bank not after becoming a customer. They've left a bank while an onboarding journey has not gone through, while the waiting has happened, while the device has hung up. So most of the customers just close the app and move on to your competitor's app. So customers don't abandon onboarding today because they don't like the product. They abandon onboarding just because they're unable to do the onboarding. So it's simple. It just takes too long, too many questions. It feels like an interview sometimes, and just opening a bank account seems like you're interviewing to get a CEO level job in a MNC today. Not today, but previously, but things have changed. So if a customer today has to wait, repeat steps, upload documents, move between channels, there's a 90% chance he's just going to run. Yes. So at Enqura, our objective is very simple: to work on these friction points. So when onboarding can be completed in seconds, when ID verification is seamless, when security and compliance are handled with AI intelligence in the background, completion rates improve significantly. And as per our records, we have a success rate of almost 99%, which is way beyond the market rate globally today. So when we talk about AI at Enqura, we're not talking about AI as a standalone technology. What we're talking about is using AI to solve real business challenges, help financial institutions onboard customers faster, safer, and provide at the same time a much better experience from day one when they walked into your banking application as a new customer. So to conclude, I would say today the best onboarding journey is the one where customers barely notice. For them, it does not exist. It's fast, secure, compliant, and it simply works. Nothing fancy, nothing, it's not like launching a rocket to the moon, but a simple journey that starts with recognizing a customer and ends with approving the customer. And I think that's exactly what AI is meant to do today.
Thank you so much for this detailed answer, Rehan. Your takeaways are very on point. Onboarding is such an important moment because it often defines the customer's first real impression of the financial institution. On a personal experience, last week I went to I was trying to open a bank account from a bank in digital channels. The tech was great, but the process took so long. So my first instinct was to just change the bank because I don't have any emotional attachment to that bank. So as you mentioned, the onboarding is a very key step. A faster and safer onboarding journey can make a significant difference in reducing friction and building trust from the very beginning. But of course, the journey does not end once the customer is onboarded. The next challenge is keeping customers active, engaged, and supported throughout their whole financial journey. So, William, I would like to turn back to you for my next question. Once customers are onboarded, how does InvestSuite use AI to keep customers engaged, active, and invested throughout their financial journey with you guys?
Yeah, thank you. And Rehan, same. I loved your talk about the experience with opening a bank account. I know sometimes in my personal life there's certain things that I see as admin, which I think most people would see opening a bank account as, and if you don't manage to do it straight away, it's so frustrating. So yeah, I think I touched on this at the beginning. I joined InvestSuite because I saw it as a front runner, and that's because AI is in the DNA of the company. So there's substance to it. It's not just a tagline. As I mentioned, one of our co-founders, Laurent Salbe, was also co-founder of Superlinear, which is one of the top AI firms in Belgium on the orchestration side. One of our other co-founders, Bart van Haren, who was CEO of Bolero, one of the big investment platforms in Belgium and on the board of KBC Securities. He describes our company as similar to Pixar, which is an analogy I love because it's got bankers such as Bart, people that come from different areas of financial services, such as myself, but it combines those with quants, such as Laurent, who was one of our founders, but also designers, behavioral scientists, and bringing all of these together can create that sort of full value chain experience, so that you don't have things too siloed. So our company has had AI from the beginning. From day one, we had algorithmic AI. So within our robo-advisor, Monte Carlo simulations, optimization, risk modeling, on the hybrid side, creating curated lists that update automatically for self-directed clients as well. And then around 5 years ago, we layered in deterministic AI, so outputs that are verifiable and controlled by design. So within suitability profiling using behavioral science, but actually also creating engaging portfolio narratives, as I said, with the financial literacy things to create reports on how people's investments are doing in language that they understand, looking at real-time impact of news on portfolios, and everything with zero hallucinations, with the right guardrails to make sure that it is 100% accurate, and then providing that information how people want it. So yes, you can get a written report on how your investments are doing, but actually using AI to create those as podcasts, as videos, and move away from sort of generic communication that, as Rehan said, can cause a huge amount of frustration, and create an experience that people will remember. So not that process, not the specific thing that they remember, but how they feel about how it all works. So what we've done now with our new AI agent, Charlie, is to bring all of those capabilities together, plus add in agentic AI, plus making sure that the guard railing is there to create personalized experiences, to drive engagement, and as I've touched on, because it's a passion of mine, supporting financial literacy. So in practice, what does this actually mean? So it's already live within our self-directed white label investment platform, to provide personalized insights on portfolios, to provide context as to why the portfolio is performing the way it is, to provide news, understand your positions better, and have a lexicon to understand certain terminology, and really pulling it all together, understanding the customer and making sure things are personalized. But actually, where it goes to the next level is the agentic area. So placing trades, but making sure that it's going through all of the right checks in the process of placing a trade, creating personalized alerts, creating news briefings on your portfolio, yet again, that personalization so that you can keep that engagement with your investments, with your portfolio as much as possible, and many, many more things. But as I said, making sure that we have that compliance. We live in a very regulated environment, so making sure that we have the right compliance, so that the AI on the self-directed side isn't going to be providing advice, aspects like that. And then with Charlie, we're actually launching Charlie within our robo-advisor next month. I'm very, very excited about it. I don't know how much I'm allowed to say, but I'll share a couple of snippets and hopefully not get in too much trouble when I get back to my colleagues. So as well as some of the aspects I touched about, explaining portfolio performance, explaining why things are the way they are, and what has, what's been going on within the portfolio to customers. We're actually exposing the optimization engine that sits behind our robo-advisor. And that can sound very complicated, but actually what it's doing is it's being transparent. So it's showing proposed trades to investors so they can see where their portfolio could be going. It's running the optimizations. And actually you can even get it to create simulations and what if scenarios. So you can look at different risk profiles. So if you're thinking, oh, I'm tempted to go for something a little bit riskier on my portfolio, you can actually look at that risk profile and see how things can look. So really get a better understanding. And as I said, for someone who's newer to investing, especially, tie them in deeper, get them to grow in confidence, learn more, and then be more engaged in terms of what they're doing. But I think the key thing is that when we look at the investments themselves, we're still using our optimization engine, which has been in the market for the last 8 years. So it's market proven. We know that it works. So the investment strategy is not AI generated. It's still using some strong deterministic products. And what we're using the AI for is that interface on top to create something that's personalized, to create an engaging experience, to help people gain confidence in terms of their investments, do it at scale so that you can serve as many customers as possible, but without losing what the really real key is, which is the trust or the control. So those are some of the key aspects we're doing within the AI space, and how we're trying to deepen that trust and engagement at the same time for our customers.
So thank you so much for your insights on the subject, William. I think this brings the full customer journey together very nicely. We have discussed how AI can support the customer from the first onboarding experience and then continue to create value through personalization, engagement, guidance, and retention. We will now move into the Q&A part of the webinar. We have around 10 minutes for questions from the audience. Please feel free to submit your questions now if you haven't already during the webinar. You can ask about AI-powered onboarding, customer engagement, digital wealth experiences, personalization, compliance, integration with existing banking systems, or the business case for AI investment. I'll wait just a minute to take your questions. While we are waiting for you guys, I can start with a question asked during the discussion. The question is for you, Rehan. We have talked a lot about the customer benefits of AI-powered onboarding. So from a company's perspective, does AI on mobile edge add operational complexity, or does it actually help improve the efficiency?
Oh, that's actually a cool question. For many organizations, at the moment you say AI, I think they immediately think complexity, infra investments, additional overhead, charges and stuff like that. And in reality, I experience has been quite the opposite. One of the biggest advantages of AI in as a technology is it shifts intelligence closer to the customer. So it's rather relying heavily on centralized processes and infrastructure. It decentralizes the process, and AI takes care of everything in the background. So if you see, traditionally onboarding solutions required significant server resources, storage, constant scaling, often more often than not, manual intervention, where verification processes usually used to fail or required a review. But with AI mobile edge technology, much of the verification process happens directly at the customer's device, as I had mentioned. That means the organization is less dependent on external solutions or external sources, and they have a more centralized infrastructure for lowering these processes. So what it happens on a more organizational level is quite the opposite. Things start becoming easier. They start reducing manual reviews and manual handlings. AI automates everything in the background for them, works pretty much 99%. The human interference comes only when something like empathy is required, a human touch is required. But more than that, AI takes care of everything on the background. Secondly, what it also does for organization is it improves scalability. So whether you're onboarding hundreds, or you're onboarding thousands of customers, the platform can scale more efficiently without any major investment in infrastructure or cost. And most importantly, third, it improves accuracy. Better AI-driven verification means fewer mistakes, fewer frauds, fewer failed onboarding attempts. So this again leads directly to an operational cost that can be reduced. So eventually, what matters to an organization at the end is the bottom line in the profit and loss statement. And what AI helps is by retaining clients and increasing that profit for you. So how does it do it? It helps in a better, faster experience, lower fraud incidents happening, and a compliance team that gets automated real time, not in a day or 2 days, but it gets automatically updated every time. So I think we often say that the best technology is the technology you don't notice. So this is exactly what Enqura does. It builds a technology platform in the background for an organization, which after a certain point, even the organization can ignore, because it's a plug and play model, whereas the client anyway is going through a smoother process in the front.
Thank you so much, Rehan. I have a question for William as well, then we conclude our webinar. William, I would like to ask a question that is especially relevant when we talk about wealth, investment, and financial guidance. How do you balance personalization with the compliance and suitability requirements that financial institutions face?
Yeah, I think it's a really good question, and I guess we need to look at the journey as well. So when we're looking at a self-directed journey, we need to use the AI to surface as much information as possible. So to make sure that we're bringing information to the front, but the AI is not giving advice itself, because we need to have those compliance checks, and that's something we've built within Charlie. If we move towards a sort of more discretionary phase, yet again, that we're going to use AI on the onboarding, on the suitability profiling. I think Rehan's talked about that in a lot of depth, and use it to really, yet again, surface context, surface information on the portfolios. But a lot of the guardrailing is going to be done, and we're really going to be doing it to check the risk profile and how someone is going to be invested. Now, when we go to an advice journey, that's where it gets a bit more complicated, because you can have that hybrid part, and it's just about making sure that the AI, does not have any hallucinations, that it's fully compliant, that it's proposing the right investments to the right people, and that it's really using that personalization across the board. So I think you need to look at the journey that you're offering, to the customer and how you're using the AI. And in the same way that with a human, you would have to make sure that you're fitting with the right compliance for the right journey that's being offered to the customers. But I think the key thing is when you're building the AI to make sure that you have as many guardrails as possible. That silly things, when we look at our self-directed journey, the AI is picking out numbers from the platform itself. It's not going and picking out the numbers from the internet. So making sure that the AI really is pointed to the right place, so that we can make sure that it's as compliant and as possible, because that's going to be hugely important and a huge risk if we don't do it in that way.
Thank you, William. So this was it for our webinar. Thank you both for your valuable insights. We are now coming to an end of today's webinar. I would like to thank again to Rehan Mohammed from Enqura and William Ferrand from InvestSuite for joining us and sharing their perspectives. I would also like to thank everyone in the audience for taking the time to attend today's session. The key takeaway from today's discussion is that AI in financial services should not be seen only as a tool for individual use cases. Its real potential comes when it helps create a more connected, seamless, secure, and personalized customer journey. From onboarding to engagement and from customer activity to long-term value, AI can help financial institutions build stronger relationships with their customers. Thank you again for joining us. We hope you found the session valuable, and we look forward to continuing the conversation with you guys. Please follow us from LinkedIn. Have a great week. Thank you so much again.
Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks for having us.